when it's not South Africa trying to donate millions to Cuba, our army is also doing business on the side with their defence force. We've signed 2 questionable contracts with Cuba worth 1.3 billion rand to repair key military vehicles and aircraft. But it's claimed we're not getting our money's worth, and that's not to mention the dodgy Hebron drug deal the army completed with Cuba at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, this historical partnership was largely forged and cemented in the foxholes of the 1980s Anglo border war, and it's why the friendship lasts to this day. Well, Defence Web analyst Guy Martin is live with us now to help us understand and unpack the relationship between South Africa and Cuba. Guy, thank you so much for joining us. We have stayed so loyal to Cuba, from hiring their doctors, which is almost a sort of a business operation in Cuba, to the odd Hebron drug import, and now these questionable defense deals. Why? What's going on?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Yes, there's been a lot of contracts with Cuba over the years, starting in the mid-1990s with training our doctors and medical personnel in Cuba. And over the years, that's expanded. The Cubans have been providing support to the Departments of Basic Education, Public Works, Health, Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, and now most recently, Defence. With regard to defence, under Project Tusano, which has been in effect since about 2015, the Cubans have focused on refurbishing South African military vehicles. They've brought about 11,000 vehicles back to life. They've preserved over 1,000 vehicles, and they've transferred skills to about 1,500 South African National Defence Force personnel. So in that regard, the SANDF has been getting some value. There's tangible results there. The Army's serviceability of the vehicles has improved. But when it comes to training, that's a bit more questionable. So the SANDF has got hundreds of personnel training in Cuba, and this covers everything from maintenance technicians to pilots, doctors, and so on. Now, the problem with that is, especially with in the medical field, the students have to learn Spanish before they can even start their studies. And with the Air Force pilots, they are learning on Cuban aircraft, and they're learning Cuban doctrine. So the value that they bring back to South Africa is questionable. So in terms of that, it's, there are a lot of questions about that. But when it comes to the repair and maintenance of vehicles, the SANDF is getting fair value. But that begs the question, could this be done in-house? So the National Defence Force has claimed that if they use local contractors, they would be overcharged for the repair and refurbishment of vehicles. But the problem is there are many local contractors who could assist the SANDF in developing skills in-house. And this is a route that the SANDF hasn't really taken. And they've spent, as you mentioned, about 1.5 billion rand over the last 7 years on refurbishing vehicles. And the SANDF plans to spend about another 1.5 billion rand over the next 4 years to maintain and repair military vehicles.
Guy, why are we doing this? Can you explain the historical significance or short history of our strong military ties with Cuba?
Yes, it's essentially a reward for Cuba's involvement in the liberation struggle. And we've seen these sort of rewards taking many shapes and forms. So it's South Africa paying for Cuban doctors to come out to South Africa. It's South Africa paying for water engineers, obviously the military contracts, the procurement of Heberon, or also known as interferon, to treat COVID patients. And also, more recently, the proposed 50 million rand direct donation to Cuba. So a lot of this is essentially a reward for the liberation era activities.
All right, thank you so much. That was defence expert Guy Martin. Thank you again for your time. We're going to a short